So happy to welcome Sofia Sayah today. She could have taken the easy road, coming from a family legacy business, but instead she chose to carve out her own path, building a career and legacy that truly resonates with who she is. Welcome, Sofia.
I don't think success ever is meant to solve anything, at least not for me. Well, making money is amazing, but I never want that to drive me.
Did you always see yourself becoming an entrepreneur? Or did it just kind of happen to you? Did you have what I call the aha moment that you were saying, okay, this is what I have to do?
The biggest chapter for me was COVID, which is when I lost my job. There was no more events in Dubai. And then I had to figure it out.
I think that's one thing that sometimes people, especially people wanting to become entrepreneurs, forget is that even a failed business, if you can call this a failed business, but even a failed business venture teach you something. So that's why any experience, any entrepreneurial experience is always worth it. And that's kind of the message we're trying to get out there. We have a team now. Can you tell us what has been so far the hardest lesson you've learned? So happy to welcome Sofia Sayah today. She could have taken the easy road, coming from a family legacy business, but instead she chose to carve out her own path, building a career and legacy that truly resonates with who she is. Welcome, Sofia. So happy to have you on the podcast. We're going to start right off the bat with a question, a bit of a loaded question, but I like it and I like to start with this. If your entrepreneurial journey was a book, what would be the title and what would be the plot twist that no one saw coming?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me today. We're really excited to be here today. Love what you're doing. I think it's something that I would have loved to see when I was first starting off. So thank you for that. And to answer your question, I think if my journey as a business owner, I think were a book or as my life, I think it'd be called Off Script, if that makes sense. Because like you mentioned, I left a comfortable life. I mean, not left, but it was just something that was carved in for me, working with my family, which would have been amazing. But I just left that, and that's what the plot twist was, is just leaving that so suddenly and going my own way to try to figure out what I'd like to do, and ending up as a entrepreneur in events, completely unexpected.
Which is very brave, by the way. Sometimes we forget that when we take those decisions, especially starting your own business, whether you're like living a comfortable, potential life and starting your own business, or just deciding to start your own business, it's kind of asks a lot of courage to take that first step. So how was it for you, the beginning?
You know what? A lot of people always tell me that it takes a lot of bravery, but I think a lot of times you just stumble upon it and you didn't realize you were being brave at that moment because you just really didn't have a choice, or you were just trying something out and you didn't know where that was going to go. So I just stumbled upon it and I always knew that I wanted to do something on my own, but I just never knew what.
That makes sense.
So it was I think what requires a lot of bravery is staying in it and not quitting rather than starting, for me at least.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting because actually, now that you say that, I realize often that's what people say, is that the first step is often following what I call an aha moment, where you feel like that's your calling. So you're quite... you go for it quite easily, but then when you start it and you have all the setbacks and all of the moments of doubt, that's when it's really hard to say, okay, I'm going to keep pushing and keep going this way because this is the only way for me, actually.
Yeah, 100%.
The only way I feel comfortable with. So now going back to this kind of first block, which is the unlikely road to CEO, that's the purpose of this podcast. So kind of going back to your career and to your past, can you tell us a bit more about your first job? And did you learn anything from that first job that you actually use today as a CEO?
Yeah, so actually my first job, I think, as it is expected. It was working with my family. I think I was pretty young. Even when I was still in high school, I would kind of learn with my mom, understand what's going on. I did throughout college work with them. Just to give you a background, my family is in the fashion industry. We do textiles and our headquarters are in Japan, but we supply internationally. It is a very exciting world. And I did find it very interesting and loved working in it. I did learn so much because I was quite young. My mom would send me sometimes to trade shows in Paris or different places.
How exciting.
It was really fun.
Oh my gosh.
They just threw me in they would tell me like, we're just throwing you in the ocean. You need to learn how to swim. And I took a semester off college. I interned in our headquarters in Japan. I learned so much. I learned everything from A to Z, and I did love it. And I learned, I think, by seeing the family, how hardworking they are, how disciplined. I mean, it's very ingrained in the culture in Japan. They were all born and raised there. So I had that to look up to. But then what I think really taught me, which was something, I mean, it wasn't my first job, but was my first job on my own, which is very random, but I quit and I was like, I want to do something by myself. I want to make my own money. So I became an Uber driver for two months.
Which is very unexpected.
Ubers has just started in the States. I was living in DC and I think having a female 20-year-old driver was not a very common.
Unexpected, honestly. I mean, very unexpected.
Yeah, it was so fun. I learned so much. It really taught me a lot of, it made me very humble and understanding, and the service industry is something you really have to respect so much. I after became a waitress, and also that is also very interesting, very hard job in a way, but it taught me so much. It taught me people skills. It taught me how to really understand people and never take anything that anyone does for granted. Everyone working, it's not easy. Sometimes just show up to work was just but it taught me so much, and so grateful for both, all those experiences, and I use them every day. I mean, it shaped who I was. I was very young.
Yeah. Looking back at what you say, to me, when I hear what you say, I see kind of that hustler vibe of, if you don't actually show up to work, you don't get paid, because, whether you're a waitress or whether you're doing Uber driver, the money that you get is really very much depending on how much you show up to work. It's not like a corporate girl where, sometimes there's days where you just, you're at work, but to be honest, you're not really fully in it, but you still at the end of the day, at the end of the month, get your salary. But when you're in that kind of service job, it's very different, because if you don't 100%. Show up at your best self at work, then it impacts directly how much money you're going to make.
Yeah, of course. Right? You're living off basically tips and hours. It was, that's why I really learned. That's what got me into wanting to get into hospitality, into a different sector than I was in my whole life. So, yeah.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, to be honest, I've never been an Uber driver, but I can tell. And please, if you are Uber driver, tell us. I feel like it's one of those, kind of work where you get to see people in a very different ways. Yeah. Because when you enter your Uber, whether it's, late at night, early in the morning, going to work, or after a party, it's maybe the time where you're the most vulnerable, because you feel safe, in this car, and you get to be yourself, because obviously not a lot of people are watching, just the person driving you. So I think it's quite interesting.
Yeah, it was a very interesting experience. And like you said, when you are in that position, you reflect what type of passenger you are. Are you become, because you feel a certain way when someone comes into in the States, it's different than in Dubai. It's your personal car that you basically just choose when you want to work. It's especially when it started. It was a long time ago. People come in and some people say hi, some people are in a bad mood, some people are very chatty. So you're like, how am I? You want to be, when you go into an Uber or you're being serviced by someone else, you're like, oh, okay, thank you so much. You really notice yourself and your, how you behave in these situations being on the other side. Same way as going to a restaurant. I found myself after experiencing that, I'd pile the plates for them and help them, I understand how hard this is.
It's funny that you say that, because actually now I remember, so I've never really been in the service industry, but when I was younger and when I was studying, I used to work, in those retail shops. So mine was Mango. And I remember we had those piles of jeans, you know, those table of jeans, and you have to fold it every time. And so I was working there and I see how much time I would spend folding those jeans. And then one client would come and just, you know, throw it out. And I was like, oh my gosh.
I'm never going to do that.
Yes. And so now every time I enter a shop, I'm like the one that, you know, cleans everything, tidying up, I do everything because I know how hard it is. You know, so you're right. 100%. I think everyone, to be honest, we should, instead of doing, you know, like those civil service or like military service, we should put people into service job so that once you become a customer, you actually have respect.
Yes.
For the people serving
definitely.
you.
I always tell everyone should do it. And I mean, it wasn't something, there's nothing wrong with it, but my family was not, like were not okay with this. They never even, I think, they knew recently that I did Uber. And when I told them I was an assistant, you know, they, especially Arab parents, they're very protective, you know. My mom was more like, do it, learn, grow, whatever. My dad was like, no, like, you know, they wouldn't want, you know, us to be vulnerable or, you know, put ourselves out there that much.
But it's the best way, honestly. And especially once you want to become an entrepreneur and there's a lot of talk right now about what kind of leadership you want to embody. I think having gotten your hands dirty very early on makes you also a better leader. At least that's what I think. Because once you know how hard it is when you're working on the ground and getting things done, then once you lead those people, it's easier for you to have empathy and to really put yourself in their shoes and lead with maybe more grace. Also.
Definitely.
So, no, that really resonates with me. Second question that I always ask to everyone coming on the podcast. Did you always see yourself becoming an entrepreneur? Or did it just kind of happen to you? Did you have what I call the aha moment that you were saying, okay, this is what I have to do?
It was always something I knew I would grow into. I didn't think there was any other way because I grew up with this. My whole family, they're all entrepreneurs, not only with the family business, but they all have their spin-off side businesses or hustles or, you know, I've grown up with this, not only direct family, but also extended. So because I grew up in this environment, it was always like, I saw the value in it. I didn't see any other way. And I did try many different things. Nothing really landed. I just started things, but with Sosai, I actually built something. Before I did a bag line, I did a necklace line with a friend. I even, right after my master's, I went to Brazil. I went to marble mines. I packed my bags and put marble, and I came to Dubai. I'm like, I want to sell marble. I want a marble business, but it's just anything.
Amazing.
I just wanted something. And events was just the most me thing. But
and also the career that resonates the most with who you are as a person. But do you think, looking back, starting businesses, even though it wasn't the long-lasting business that you end up with, do you think it also helped you in a way to pursue in that direction? Meaning just starting something, even if it's not the end game, actually helps.
Of course. Like my first business venture was my bag line. So I went to Italy. I sat down with designers. I wanted very minimal things. It was actually like, I mean, if I thought about it really properly, I would have never started it because, I mean, how am I going to sell bags and design bags? I'm not a designer. I didn't study this. I had no background in this, but I actually built my own website. I built my own Instagram page. I did my own photo shoots. I did my product development. So it was like a little mini project of I learned more in that phase than I did in college, you know? So I did it for a few months. I sold a few bags. I had a big inventory. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do with all this? You start trying to sell things, but then you're like, okay, I really don't like this. So I moved on to the next thing. But that little business that I started taught me the process, taught me what you need to do, all the different steps that you need to, I mean, accounting and marketing. It's all the elements that any business needs. So it was, sometimes you just start, maybe it's going to work, maybe it's not.
But you always learn. I think that's one thing that sometimes people, especially people wanting to become entrepreneurs, forget, is that even a failed business, even if you can call this a failed business, but even a failed business venture teach you something. So that's why any experience, any entrepreneurial experience is always worth it. And that's kind of the message we're trying to get out there.
It is.
So just start.
Just start, yeah.
Even if the idea is not complete yet, just start. And that's kind of the perfect segue to the next question, which is, do you feel like if you have to break down, let's say 3 big moments or 3 big persons or catalysts that really shaped you into launching Sosai, what do you think would that be?
So I think it goes back to my childhood. That's one. The first one, I grew up in the diplomatic world. My dad's job just had so many events, whether us hosting or us attending. So our life was always events and hosting and making things look good. And somehow it was my job because I took a liking to it since a very young age. And I would always tell my mom, like, no, mama, this is not nice. Like, I just always being the one that my mom would come to and ask, like, is this okay? So I started helping her a lot. I also helped her, even when I was in college, I'd fly back and help her with her charity events or galas or all of these national days. It was so fun. I enjoyed it so much, but it never really clicked like, oh, I could do this as a career. And then I think second chapter of this leading to Sosai was moving from fashion into hospitality. So understanding that I was not made to be in the fashion. What we did was we weren't involved in the end product. We were not part of the experience. We were not part of we were in the back end, which was very important, but it was not, I didn't get any, like I didn't feel very proud of what I worked on or what I did.
And you didn't get the reward as well. Because you don't see the end user's reaction to your projects.
Exactly.
Which is
the reason I also wanted to move into hospitality was my aunt Tashi, she told me, she's like, I don't see you in this back end. I see you more in the front, like in the experience part. I'm like, yeah. So I went and studied hospitality. It's like that moment of like shifting from product to service was a big like, okay, this is me. And then I transitioned into, once I finished, I interned in events and all of that. And then the biggest chapter for me was COVID, which is when I lost my job. There was no more events in Dubai. I had been in Dubai for only maybe like 6 to 8 months. I was very new to Dubai. And then I had to figure it out, So, I mean, that moment that the whole world kind of shut down, it kind of gave me a reset. All these big companies, they also all shut down. So once COVID started, I kind of had like a even playing ground in a way. Like everyone was starting fresh after COVID. And I think that was really like the wave that I rode to where we are now.
Yeah, which is very interesting because you took something that was, I mean, in many eyes, very negative. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people kind of, their reality were shifted because of that. But in that moment of, international blur, let's say, you found an opportunity because I remember when you first told me about starting Sosai, even if Sosai was not the first name, but it was just you with your car going, setting up things on the beach. And so it was very kind of crafty almost, but that's how it started. And what I think is very interesting and what I hear a lot about an entrepreneur from other people is that they always are the ones that in any given situation are able to seize the opportunity and to always grasp what's best to grasp at that very moment. And that's exactly what you did during COVID, where everyone would have thought, who on earth would have launched kind of an event planning thing in a middle of COVID where you have distanciation everywhere, you cannot do any events, everyone is secluded in their homes. But you saw an opportunity by doing kind of crafted, one-to-one, very small events outside. And that's kind of what gave you the go.
Definitely. I mean, that was an opportunity that if I missed, it would have been very hard to. I mean, there's so many businesses that were launched during that time, and there was a reason why.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it was not the best time, but it was an opportunity for me.
Yeah, that's good. So next block, which is dedicated to your business. So tell us a little bit more about Sosai Events. What do you do? Who do you serve? Okay. I mean, what problems are you solving? Okay. And what solutions are you bringing?
So we're an events agency. We started off really small. We used to do very tiny events, mostly private. So that's who we used to be. We weren't even called Society Events. It was like proposals, birthdays, and all of that. And then slowly, we transitioned into a lot of corporate, specifically focusing on fashion, jewelry, watches, hospitality, cars, lifestyle. Like we really try to expand our industry. We don't say no. You know, as long as the project is interesting, the industry doesn't matter. And the events that we work on are mostly marketing events, I would say small to medium sized. We do some large scale, but when people think large scale events, they think concerts, and we don't do that. We really focus on marketing events, product launches, store openings, fashion shows, PR events, galas, the end of year parties, just to give you an idea. And then we also do private, we do weddings. We love doing weddings.
Yes, that's noted in my mind.
One day.
One day.
At Society Events, we create concepts. And then we execute everything. So we create, may help you visualize. And I think the problem we're solving is really there's no problem, because we're in a very, very luxury field in a way. So when COVID hit, the first thing that goes is events, because it's not an essential. It's not really a problem. It's something that I think brands use as a marketing strategy. It's a very important one. And then weddings, I mean, we make people happy, right?
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to, because I don't know if a lot of people know about event planning. And let's say if we break down a project timing, so by the time you start talking to the client to the end result, how long are we talking? How many kind of iteration of meetings do you have?
So look, in Dubai, everything is last minute.
Yeah. That's
but
very
we
true.
do also have a lot of clients that plan ahead. From, let's say, pitching, which sometimes is a month or so. We pitch for a project, or less, depending on how long they give us. Maybe I would say like on average 3 months is a beginning to end project. Weddings, obviously, people would like to plan way in advance. So maybe 9 months to a year for wedding projects. And we have a lot of online meetings. We have site visits. We have it's so many processes. During a project, we actually are working throughout, and every project is in a different phase, right? Some of them are in pitching, sometimes we're in execution. So we're always multitasking and at different times. Most people don't really know much about event planning.
Yeah. If there was one thing that you feel like people often misunderstand about event planning, what would that be? Because I feel like, as you said, we have a very kind of biased conception of what event planning actually is.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people, first of all, think it's the easiest thing and so fun.
It's not.
I love what we do. It's fun, but it comes with a lot of challenges. I'm not going to lie. It's not all butterflies and sunshine. It's a lot of hard work. It's long nights. I can't even tell. It's so much work. And I think people misinterpret what event planning is to party planning, like planning something at your house. Event planning, and especially what we do, which is really like experiential concept creations, it really requires so much creativity and then so much organization. A lot of psychology. You really have to understand what people are going to feel. Not only managing a client, especially in the events world, is their emotion, what they're feeling. A bride, you're really going through a whole journey with them, and you're dealing not only with her, with the groom, with the mother's groom, with the brides. You're really managing and orchestrating how everyone's, like, sometimes they come to me, they're like, can you please tell them this? And can you please tell, they go through you, and like, you have to be like
because you're the neutral point.
Yes, exactly.
Whatever they don't want to tell to the other party, they're going to ask you to tell the other party.
And then when it comes to brand events, you really need to, let's say you're selling a product. You want to make people feel a certain way to want to buy that product, or to feel what that brand is trying to make them understand about the product or feel. And the way you do this is through lighting, through sound, it's basically activating all your senses. So people don't really understand why they feel a certain way when they're in a certain place, but it's all your surroundings. And event planning is really all of that. And to give you a bit more depth into this, it's like we try to explain to people that don't understand. It's like, imagine you're moving into a new house. You have not only like a 1-bedroom studio, like a full-on like house. You need to move in, okay? You have one chance to make it look amazing. You have one day, not even like a few hours sometimes, to move in. So you need to pack your truck with everything you might need. to make it look incredible with the lighting, with the sound, with the details, the menu, the printouts. You cannot go and fix something and come back and go buy. Be like, it's missing a book. You have to come ready. And then you have to do it. It happens and you leave.
Oh my gosh.
And you have to take into account the food, the drinks, the sound, the valet parking. It's a whole journey. If you go to an amazing event and the valet parking, it takes forever and they're not taking your car, you're going to be in a bad mood the second you walk in. So a lot goes into it.
Yeah. And especially here in Dubai, I mean, parking is always like a question wherever you go. When you do like those kind of experience and talking from experience, I know that I've shared that with you. Sometimes I don't know why one event has kind of had a lasting impact on me. And I'm a victim to it. I'm a victim to your work because I know for sure all of this is kind of fabricated moments that you have shaped for me to have like the best experience ever and to have a long lasting impact, something that I will remember for the rest of my life. And sometimes I walk into these events and I could not pinpoint exactly why, but I know that this event, I don't know what happened. I don't know exactly what was the mechanism, but maybe you can break it down to us that made me kind of being touched by it, but I am touched. For sure.
Of course. So, it's so much goes into that. Like it doesn't just happen. It's from the venue selection to the concept. Like let's take a wedding. I think, this is easy. Everyone's been to a wedding. When you walk into a wedding, the vibe is usually more calm. It's very dreamy. Or that's what we try to because people are supposed to come and have time to relax, have a drink. It has to be this. You have light entertainment, maybe instrumental, something very light, right? People go in and they're like, okay, this is nice. They feel comfortable. They feel safe in this space. Then let's say the bride comes in, then the groom comes in. The lights start like moving and everyone's like, okay.
You have to put some drama.
Yeah, there's drama. So people start feeling more activated, and like, okay, now it's time to party. And then again, they put down for dinner. They put the music down. It's like, okay, now it's time to relax. And then it's all with sound and light and like what's going on and how engaged or stimulated someone is that you're able to control the
reaction.
The reaction and how people are feeling.
Yeah. Which is very interesting because from what you're saying, what I hear is that, you have to have a big understanding of human psychology to be able to understand that, for example, having me, I'll say, if you want me to calm down, I'm a very, I can be very tensed in a way because my brain is always thinking of many things. Or if you want me to feel calm, you will light up some nice candle because the smell of it right away calm my nerves down, right? Then have some dimmed lights and soft music. And I would enter this room and instantly I will feel calmer. And I think that's what people sometimes forget about event planning is that every reaction you have as a customer coming to this event has been fine-tuned, curated by the team. And in your case, by Society Events, for you to feel that way. Nothing is actually, it's not, it's genuine, obviously, but it's also, we've put everything in place for you to feel that. And I think that's what people sometimes forget about event planning. So that's very, very interesting. Now, as a founder and now CEO, you've grown up the business, you have a team now. Can you tell us what has been so far the hardest lesson you've learned since you started Society?
I've learned so much. So many lessons. Every day I'm learning more. But I think the hardest lesson, was that no matter, even hard work won't always necessarily mean success. And I think that's something, and that it's sometimes you're not going to succeed fully. You might, let's say the client might be happy, but you don't think you succeeded. It's a little puts you down a little bit. And I think just changing how you see that as growth. And that was a very hard lesson. Look, I've learned so many things on how to lead a team, on and how to set boundaries, on how to price. All of these things were challenges throughout. And I think one thing that was constant throughout and that has kept me going was really just staying true to myself in a way on the type of leader I want to be, the type of client I want to attract. I don't ever want to, like, making money is amazing, but I never want that to drive me or force, like, okay, if a project is not profitable, I'm not going to do it. Or not giving a client because they're not big time. I don't want to be that, because that's not who I am. Or overpricing unnecessarily. I don't believe in that strategy. I just feel like you will lose clients later on, or, it's not who I am. And then the type of leader that I want to be, everyone has always told me, like, you need to be strict. You need to be like, don't be friends with the people you work with, etc. It sometimes does come back and bites me, but I do lead with, like you said, empathy and just being very understanding of everyone's feelings, and like trying to push my team to grow and be better, but never being a horrible boss. I never want to be that.
I think honestly, this type of leadership is a bit outdated now, because people want to lead, but also stay true, as you said, to themselves. And so for us, and I mean, I totally resonate with what you just said, because I'm exactly the same. I lead with empathy. I cannot have angry or like mean bone in my body. Like, that's just not who I am. But at the same time, sometimes it's quite hard, because you grow up in a society where they tell you that you can only lead by being a certain way. And I think it's very important also to tell others that there's many different types of leadership out there, and you have to embody the one that resonates the most with you. Whether it's leading with empathy. I mean, I've known some leaders, it's by being, very endearing, very kind of almost like motherly to the people they work with, whatever. I mean, just embrace whatever leadership feels right to you.
Yeah, I think I had to learn the balance, and that being strict didn't mean mean, or didn't mean, sometimes I feel being strict with your team and certain things, and really giving constructive feedback, like telling them, because at the beginning I wouldn't be able to tell my team, like, this is not good or it's not up to standard. I'd actually just take the work and redo it myself. But I think now I've reached a point that I'm like, no, you need to know that this is not what we would send to a client. You need to change this, redo this. Maybe it's like teaching them. They want the feedback. So it was learning that for myself, that how to deal with certain situations, how to deal with my clients. Sometimes I'd be like, oh yeah, of course, whatever you want. But sometimes like, no, this is not going to work. I do not advise, having to be very strict and firm with who I've become, but still being nice.
Yeah. And honestly, that's the thing we sometimes forget, especially for us women. We tend to feel like if we're strict and we set our boundaries straight, then we become mean. But actually, it's the opposite. And most of the time, people like clarity.
Of course.
So by giving, as you said, very clear feedbacks, very constructive feedback, anyone working with you will sense the clarity, even if sometimes, they would be like,
Yeah, I definitely had to learn that. But I've come a long way in that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's something that people have to learn too.
Yeah.
Sofia, has there been a moment where you seriously doubted yourself, doubted the business, doubted the career path that you have chosen? So, I see your smile, so I guess the answer is yes.
Doubting the business, like the industry as a whole, no. I know it's an amazing business. My career path, I don't doubt that this is the right career path for me. Do I doubt myself and my capabilities and everything? Yes, all the time. And I think this is part of being a business owner. Not only self-doubt in your capabilities, but like, will I be able to, in events, it's seasonal, right? So like, first of all, like, am I going to be able to get enough projects this season to pay the team? Summer there's no events at all. So you go through the summer just like in this self-doubt. Like, I really hope that my work has spoken for itself, that my clients really have been happy that they will come back, and they always do. And although it's been 5 years of me starting everything, it was 2 years alone. And so I really it's been 3 to 4 years, I would say. Every season I shouldn't have been worried about it, but I was, self-doubt just creeps up all the time. But self-doubt, I think, is the key to making sure that you're always growing. And I think it's something very important. If that's not there, you're just comfortable. You can get arrogant. You can be like, oh, it'll always be fine. I think self-doubt leads to growth and keeps you always like delivering your best work.
Yeah.
Without that, there's no effort. There is just, you're comfortable. You're like, yeah, I got this, which is nice, but I don't think is that's confidence is good.
Yeah.
But just arrogance isn't.
Yeah. And I couldn't agree more, because I truly feel, as you said, that self-doubt is also your kind of intuition of, always trying to find ways of growth, opportunities for growth, and always questioning whether the way you did things before is still the best way to do it now. Because that's something, especially in our business, I mean, in any business, to be honest, but especially in Dubai, when you're in a country, in a city that evolves so much, and where everyone is kind of coming up with new ideas, new concepts, if you don't have this thing of always self-questioning and trying to find ways to do things better, at some point you're going to be kind of out market.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
No, I definitely feel that. Second question and that's a question I like to ask, because most of the time we feel like people that wants to be entrepreneur or wants to be CEO, it's also because they want to be successful in a way. And that is kind of what they're chasing by starting their own business. So has success, because obviously Sofia Events has been successful. I've seen the portfolio. I've seen all of the events. If you haven't checked it out, please do so. Has success not solved something for you? Or was it even supposed to solve something for you?
I don't think success ever is meant to solve anything, at least not for me. Or, I mean, it's just kind of proving to yourself that you can do it in a way. I think it was because if this wasn't successful, I would not be able to actually do this as a job, right? So, I mean, it's definitely proving it to myself and like to my family, although they have always been very supportive of me. I mean, I'm sure they doubted if I would be able to make it with my little events that I used to do. So I think that's what it has solved, but it's not really meant to solve anything. I think it's just, like I said, it's just this moment like, okay, I can do this forever.
Yeah. And also, I think, especially sometimes you have to prove it to yourself, but also it gives you the reassurance that you have chosen the right path. Because I do believe that for you to have a business that is successful, it also means that in a way, you found your purpose. And I mean, maybe that's very personal, but I truly feel like every human being has a purpose in life, has something to give out there. And once you found what is it for you, then it brings out positive energy. And hopefully this positive energy, most likely leads to success.
Definitely. I mean, this is actually like one of the things that was hard for me, because when I was working with my family, although I'm like, maybe this is my purpose because this is what I was, what I grew up doing, and I knew this was my path, but I didn't feel like it was my purpose. I didn't feel happy in a certain way. And I did try many different things, but this is what really was like, this is what I'm meant to be. This is what I do, and this is what I am good at. I think that part of what I'm good at is so important in success, because maybe being passionate is amazing. I think it's very important. But if you're not good at it, then there is no point, right? I think that part, was really important for
definitely makes sense. Me, I'm going to tell you, I'm passionate about singing, definitely not good at. So no ever could I become a singer. So it's important to have both. Yeah. To be passionate about what you're doing, but also having in mind that you have to, at some point, be good at.
If you're good at it, you'll be passionate about it. Because you'll succeed at it. You'll get positive reinforcement. You'll actually make a difference with what you're good at.
Yeah. So, that's very true. That's very true. Now going to the last part of this podcast, which is all about legacy and what you kind of want to, the mark you want to leave for the world, for the industry that you work in. Kind of going back to event planning, what is the legacy you hope to leave and to create for your company, for the industry, and maybe also for you personally?
I mean, in Dubai and the world, there are so many event companies and there's so many amazing ones and so many that I look up to. So I think for me to say I want to leave a legacy that I can leave that mark, that would be, I would love to. I really hope that one day that reaches that. I really just hope for the clients that I do have, or the people or the industry surrounding, that we are making a difference in the industry, changing certain ways of how we do things, and especially with the team that we have. We're all young, just creative, trying to do things maybe differently. So I think it's more about me. I think it's what I hope to achieve for myself. It's just being super proud of what I've built. And I am already, and I think that every year we're growing more and more. And I think it's just something that is very personal in a way of like what I hope to achieve. Exactly.
No, it makes sense. And me, I would say, and that's me kind of knowing you a little bit and knowing your work. I have to say what is very particular to you and to Sofia is that every time you guys do events, and I've seen a few showcase of your events, it's very curated. Like it's almost like you are serving your clients, of course, but you can see that the experience is at the center of it all. And I think that's a way of seeing events that is maybe more modern in a way than before, where it's, you go out of this thing of having events that are kind of similar or generic to having something very specific.
Exactly. I mean, for us, it's all about customizing bespoke events for clients and making sure that their vision is brought to life. And every year things are going to change, and the trends will change, the goals will change. I think we'll keep growing with that.
And please come into the telecom sector. I am personally, working in finance and working in telecom. And I have to say our events,
that's really
no offense to anyone, but are really not the best. So please, if you're looking for a new industry to tap in, go to telecom.
This is actually a big goal that we have. And because we are in industries that are already so glamorous in a way, we want to go into the industries that aren't, because we can, like real estate, pharma, telecom. Those, events just really have so much potential. We can really change that. So maybe it's
a blank page. I'm telling you, so much to be done. Is that the next big challenge for Sofia? Of tapping into a different industry?
That is one of the challenges for sure. And I think this season, we're hopefully getting into certain new industries, and we're really excited about. But I think the biggest challenge for me or Sofia in general is scaling. My goal is not to be the biggest or the greatest. It's really to keep the soul of what we do. I like to be involved in all the projects. It's not like I'm just like, okay, you do it and we'll see. I'm involved in the little details of it. I try to, step away, but at the end of the day, it does matter. And having that soul from us or from the entire team, bringing the unique experience and the spirit to it, I think is the biggest challenge. Because once you start growing too much, then I won't be able to do that. So it's just finding that sweet spot that we are big enough, but with the same soul that we have now.
And do you see, as a founder and CEO, and as you said, the soul being very what's kind of differentiates Sofia Events from any other kind of event planning agency. Do you see transmission to your team of your spirit, your vision as important? Is that something that you really think is also why Sofia is so successful, is because you were able to kind of give that goal to your team too? And as you go, you're going to continue to do that?
Of course. I think it's something that when my team, they know how I am. They know how detailed I am. And a lot of people think of my team, they're like, well, how would Sofia do this? Or what would Sofia notice? And they start, and now it's how they do events too. So it's basically...
That's good. They're like mini yous, right?
It's just, they understand it. And I think it is an event. It's really a taste, right? It's your taste. And I think we have to surround yourselves with a team that has a similar taste and understands the vibe. Otherwise, we're going to have, from the same company, completely different events.
No, which makes sense. Now, last question of this podcast. It was a pleasure to have you. For anyone that is listening, and especially for people wanting to start their business, would you have any advice to give them?
I have plenty. I love being this. I've always liked to give advice when it comes to it, not because I think I'm so experienced or anything, but really because I feel like there's certain things that I've seen people put so much effort and focus on without even starting. So just start. That's my biggest advice. Start. Don't, it's going to be messy at the beginning. You might not really know, but there is really no point in focusing so much on like a full-on business plan or on your logo or on your name, because a lot of people think they're like, oh, but this is what people are going to know me for. Maybe I won't be able to change it. You can. My events agency was called, it wasn't even an agency, it was called Memories by Soph.
Which is very endearing.
Because I was creating memories. And, you know, I created my logo on PowerPoint. I didn't even know how to use Canva. I literally just found a font, I found a background, I put it on my Instagram, and I just started doing my own little things. I bought pallets, like wooden pallets, hammers, saw. I just was paint. I just figured it out, and it was not planned at all. I just started, and as you go, you need to grow. And then eventually I outgrew the name. I'm like, okay, it's kind of embarrassing to go to a big fashion brand and be like, hello, I'm Memories by Soph. So I'm like, it's time to change the name. So I didn't go so far off, because Sayah is my name, like Sofia Sayah. Just changed the Y for the I, looked more aesthetic. But yeah, just start. I think over planning can really just get in your way of your actual product or what your service is. That is, I think, once you get started, then you can really refine everything and do it. At the end of the day, it's really the overall idea. And if you start working hard and you start getting clients, as long as you have clients, what you're called, what you look, it doesn't really matter.
And you can fine tune later. I think and I have to say, same thing goes for me. I used to think that beginning had to be shiny and glamorous for it to work. And truth is, most beginnings are, you know, getting your hands dirty, doing things the wrong way, hitting a wall, and that's fine, because at the end of the day, everything is a learning, and you're just on your path to becoming, you know, a better leader through that, and that's okay. And nothing is set in stone. I think that's one of the things people have to understand.
Of course. And I really think that, you know, like in marketing, I studied marketing, and what you learn is your pricing strategy. And they say that, okay, well, when you start, you need to position yourself in a way where you want to be, like where you want to be. And they tell you like, okay, you need to start with a high price point, because you're gonna, let's say, if you want to be a luxury brand, and then people will respect you. But that's not how it works. You really have to earn it. You have to grow, and you have to, people need to understand what they're paying for, right? So obviously when I first started doing events, I used to charge 400 dirhams in an event, and I was like, oh my God, is it too much? You know? And then people could have told me like, what do you mean? That's nothing. You should be charging much more. But no, I knew nothing. I was learning. I was doing such small events. And then eventually, as I grew, as I got better at what I did, my price points increased, and what I did changed, and my pricing strategy keeps changing based on what I'm doing and what I'm being able to provide to the client.
No, it makes sense. And also, I think, you know, to everyone listening to us, don't stay stuck. I think that's the one thing, you know, start, don't stay stuck. And also, you learn by doing. And I think that's it
might not work. Yeah. And that's okay, because you learned. And
then you jump to the next idea.
Yeah.
That's the main thing.
But just keep doing. And also, I think maybe for me, I think being in a service industry was just so much easier than being in a product industry. Developing a product and all of that is quite challenging, you know, that you do need to put a lot of work in. You know, you don't want to spend thousands on your prototype and then you realize, oh, I don't like this. So that's another little piece of advice.
That's perfect. That's the end of this podcast. For everyone listening, Sofia, thank you for coming. We are super happy. Check this out. Check them out. Sayah Events. They're really good at what they do. One of the best.
Thank you.
Working with a lot of, I've seen your work, working with a lot of fashion brands, very high end. But if you do have a wedding coming up, she can also do that. The team can also do that. And for anyone kind of wrapping up this episode, the one thing we want to leave to the audience is this idea of just start your business. Even if it's not glamorous, even if it starts very small, just start. And that's the end.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.